A very good afternoon and welcome to a very new program, a brand new program, The Whip. And we're going to be talking all things parliamentary for about half an hour on Saturdays. And as the needs arise, as the need arises, if we need to come with a program during the course of the week, like how we're having a sitting of the National Assembly on Monday, we may bring another program to you during the course of the week. But this is built to be a half-hour program on Saturdays at this very time in which we talk about all things parliamentary for about half an hour. And we're going to be talking about the persons behind the things that are happening in our parliamentary system. We're going to be looking, for instance, at the bills that we pass in Parliament that concerns you. We're going to be talking about the motions that are brought to the National Assembly and debated on your behalf. We're going to be talking also about the questions. We're going to be getting in between the weeds, talking about the questions that are brought to the National Assembly for answers by the ministers of government and how they impact all of us as citizens. Those are just some of the issues we are going to be covering. But folks, as we join the program this afternoon, we want to tell you about what is the order paper or the agenda for this afternoon's program. In Parliament, you call it the order paper. It's the agenda of what you're going to be discussing for that sitting or that day at Parliament. And our order paper for this afternoon, we can be talking about some motions that came up for debate in the last sitting of the National Assembly on Thursday last. We're going to be talking about some questions that have been posed to Minister for many months now, and most of which have gone unanswered. We're going to be talking about some financial papers that were tabled in the last sitting of the National Assembly. The administration, the regime, has come to the National Assembly to ask for over $10 billion in flood relief. Yet, a motion that was brought by the Honourable Member of Parliament, Ganesh Mahi Paul, was turned down. The Speaker said it was not urgent as a motion on flooding that sought to elucidate, that sought to bring clarity, that sought answers, and also brought some recommendation that pertains to this national flood that is happening. So we're going to be touching on these issues. This is our order paper for this program, our agenda for the program. We're going to be touching on some motions. We're going to be touching on some questions that were raised. We're going to be touching on some financial issues, and then we are going to adjourn. Hopefully, if we get through this sitting. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we have, believe it or not, on this program, The Whip, we have an introduction for you. Let me make sure we have it queued up correctly. Yep. Welcome back. Again, we are talking all things parliamentary on our brand new program, The Whip, and I'm MP Sherrod Duncan. And of course, the whip in Parliament is meant to keep everybody in line and in check. And so, folks, we have quite a number of issues to discuss this afternoon, and I'm very, very privileged to be joined by none other than Member of Parliament, Ms. Judice Fernandes. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Sherrod, and good afternoon to all the viewers. I love the intro, Sherrod. I think I like the song of the lashing whip in the background, like to whip persons in line.
Yes, definitely. And part of what we do in this program, as in addition to interrogating the issues that are transacted at Parliament, the bills that are brought, the motions, the questions, and all things parliamentary, is also to give the members of the public an insight into our parliamentarians, because more than often, when we engage with members of the public, we're always in working mode. Something is always happening. We're always moving, and in this space, we also get a chance to get a little insight into our parliamentarians, who they are, what are their motivations. So, Member of Parliament, Judice Finance, welcome. And if you were to describe yourself, perhaps in 2 or 3 sentences to members of the public you're meeting for the first time, who do you say you are?
Director Finance. I think the part of me that stands out the most is the fact that I'm not from Georgetown. I'm from Region 7, and I'm as simple as they come. I think what I want to mention right now is that my pathway to politics wasn't something I just woke up one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to be involved in politics," but because I tell people very, very often that I was raised to grow up basically dirt poor, and traveling throughout Guyana, I would have realized that our country is in desperate need of representation from people who actually walk that way before persons like myself to come forward, because very often time we have persons that are empowered to make decisions hopefully to get people out of poverty, persons that do not really truly understand poverty themselves. And I can tell you that's basically who I am, somebody that is extremely simple, extremely humble. I have walked that way before. I know what it's like, and it is my aim and passion to get as many people as possible out of that. You're muted, Sherrod.
Apologies. I was saying thanks for that insight. I know that you are more than that. You are encyclopedias, but for the purposes of this program, we have to keep it short. So
That's
that being said, during the last sitting of the National Assembly, a motion was brought by the Honorable David Patterson, and the motion concerns natural gas flaring at the ESSO Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, and this motion was basically disqualified because of what they call sub judice rule. The sub judice rule, when a matter is engaging the attention of the court, it cannot be discussed in Parliament. The only thing with this particular issue is that it was brought long before this court action was filed pertaining to a similar matter. Mr. Kemraj Ramjitan, the Honorable Member of Parliament, raised the issue of how we deal with the sub judice rule in the last sitting of the National Assembly. I want us to take a listen to what he said, and then I want to get your impression of it at the end of it, MP Judice Finance.
Public business, private members' business. Honorable members, we have a first motion in the name of the Honorable Member, Mr. David Patterson. I am at this moment unable to proceed with the debate on this motion because since this motion has been tabled and put on the order paper, action has been filed in the High Court of the Supreme Court of the Judicature. That action bearing the number 2021-HC-DEM-CIV-FDA-742. Consistent with previous rulings regarding matters that are sub judice, I again report the standing orders 26G and 4-1-2.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to make
The Honorable Mr.
No, I can
Ramjitan.
understand.
Go ahead.
But what I had wanted to bring to your attention was the development of judicial rule. As you know, we take our things and bring it not the House of Commons. And that rule, just for the sake of our purposes here, has been qualified to a certain extent. Because whenever we have serious matters like this, of clearing and all of that, and we had brought the thing in long before somebody filed an action, it is important then that a discretion be used, and I'm going to get to that in a short moment, for the purposes of not causing the Parliament, which is the premier institution of the land, to be hamstrung by these litigation that can come. There is also an important exception to this rule, a qualification, that assuming that we had brought a bill, a private member's bill, say, or even a minister had brought a bill, that action that is filed cannot stop us based on the sub judice rule. Because we then, our legislative capacity could be hamstrung again. And that's the whole point of this matter, is that we in this Parliament, when it was used to ensure, the purpose behind it was to ensure that we do not influence or prejudice the adjudication that will happen inside of the court. That is the whole arrangement.
Thank
What we have here is obviously not going to do that. And I am urging that indeed, well, if you don't want to listen to me, that's all right. But the trouble is,
Honorable member, please, I'm listening to you.
yeah. I am saying, because the House of Commons, and I've gotten it here, I'm going to give it to you. The present rule rightly tries to strike a balance between two sets of principles. On the one hand, the rights of parties in legal proceedings should not be prejudiced by discussion of their case in Parliament, and Parliament should not prevent the courts from exercising their functions. On the other hand, Parliament has a constitutional right to discuss any matter it pleases. Now, in relation to this thing, that is why they say in 2001, this ruling came out that indicated these kinds of collision courses that we have, like as present, you should make it clear that it has a discretion and the chair has that discretion, the speaker. This is what the joint committee recommended. It is made explicit that the rule applies in committee. They went on. That was a separate issue. The new provisions clarify what is meant by a case that is active. Because you could bring a case to deal with Exxon, but it ain't got nothing to do with the core and crux of what we are dealing with here. And because, well, I don't even know about the case.
Honorable member, please speak to me.
Well, if it does. The provisions of civil proceedings are relaxed so that the pretrial applications are treated as distinct proceedings. And then the relaxation of the rule now applies to any judicial review of a ministerial decision rather than being of reviews on grounds of misdirection or on bad faith. But whatever it is, we had a ruling that was made by Speaker Raphael Trotman, 7th of August 2013. There was a case that was filed in connection with, I think, the limit of outstanding amount under the guarantees given under the Guarantee of Loans Act, which was said to have offended 26G. And he made an extremely important ruling, and I hope that that is considered when you determine this matter. Standing orders must be read, interpreted, and applied in a purposive manner. In my considered opinion, it could never have been intended that a simple filing of a writ of motion could prevent a debate on an issue in this House. Rather, it is my considered opinion that the purpose of the standing order must be to ensure that the outcome of a matter is not prejudiced by the debate or resolution adopted, apart from guaranteeing fairness in trials and court proceedings, it also serves to recognize and respect the hallowed doctrine of separation of powers. Because we got our powers here too. Must not be limited. Nothing has been stated about the progress of the hearing of the appeal, and this is where he tried to make the distinction, and I hope that that was done, because I am now learning that there was an action filed, but we don't know what has happened to that appeal, that case. Nothing has been stated about the progress of the hearing of that case and its likelihood of being concluded and all of that. And so, not because we could get what you call subsumed by litigation. And when private members now want to bring a motion, you get somebody fix up a little litigation there and stop it. And instead we dead here. That cannot be. That cannot be. And so I'm urging that you reconsider in view of all the additional facts that you have that I don't have. I don't have the action number, what they're seeking, if it's in identical terms to what the mover of the motion is seeking here, and so on. But we should not just willy-nilly feel that,
Honorable member, thank you very much. And let me assure you, the decision of the chair was not made willy-nilly. In fact, in this particular instance, the relief being sought in court is almost identical to the resolve clauses here. So there is that issue which I have to consider. The second issue I want to comment on is the issue you raised with respect to a bill being brought to the House. And even in the last sitting of the National Assembly, we had to deal with that. I want to urge that in light of all these developments with respect to the sub-judice rule, it's going to be good work for the Standing Orders Committee as we review these standing orders. Thank you very much.
Public business.
There you have it. Basically saying that you shouldn't have the work of the National Assembly being impeded because you have people who are being facetious, going quickly to file an action just so that the sub-judice rule can kick in. Where there's a court action is filed, the matter cannot be prejudiced by a discussion happening simultaneously in Parliament, or should not be prejudiced, because at the end of the day, it is the people of the country who are not getting the best out of the Parliament of Guyana, not getting the best out of this arm of the government, fully understanding the separation of powers rule, that Parliament has a very, very important role to play, representing the needs of the people, making the law, debating these national issues, and as is going to happen on Monday, bringing relief to the people through the approval of billions of dollars. And so these matters should be debated rigorously in the National Assembly. So the point is being made that you have to use discretion where you are going to apply this doctrine of what they call sub-judice rule. MP?
But I think Sherrod is it was a very dangerous road to go down, because basically if you could break it down even simpler, what Mr. Ramzan is saying is the same way that you see a matter being filed before the court, stopping the debate of the motion being brought by the opposition. The same way when things are being brought from the government side, you can have malicious action by anyone, persons from the public, anyone in the public can go and file a motion and file in court. So, and then that very ruling that he made on Thursday would come back to haunt him, because then you would have a matter before the court again. And basically, Mr. Ramjatan, with his years and years of experience, was schooling everyone there, and the speaker including, as to given a caution that if you go down this road, these are the things that could follow after you. We can have everything wrapped up in litigations, like he rightly said. But yet, of course, the speaker, like he always does, he held on to his ruling, and he did not allow that motion to be debated. So basically opening the door that is going to say that whatever is brought to the House, whatever is put to the floor, then anybody, any member of the public can go to the court and file an action, and then the Parliament cannot debate whatever that would be. But I can tell you, Sherrod, based on the actions that I've seen before, is that what may very well happen is that we may have an identical case, and the speaker may rule differently depending on which side of the House it is coming from.
I think that part of the challenge is to have rigorous debates in the National Assembly so that the best ideas emerge and we're able to move this country forward. It shouldn't be because the government has the numbers or the opposition, as happened in 2011, have the numbers that you have legislation that is rammed through Parliament and doesn't enjoy the scrutiny of all the members of the National Assembly. And these matters pertaining to flaring, also to the location of shore bases, the motion that was brought, for instance, by MP Mahi Paul to scrutinize the flooding that is happening right now, and the efforts that the government is bringing to bear to alleviate the suffering of the people. To brush those things aside lightly is to do a disservice to the people of this country.
Well, you speak of a parliament that we hope to achieve. We hope to achieve a parliament in which we go and we have these rigorous debates on matters as such. But persons, the public, it's a pity the way it is right now. Persons are not seeing what really goes on within the House. A speaker gets up and speak. You can't really hear what goes on in the background. But we have sitting members of the installed government coming to Parliament and basically behaving as though they're children, shouting the most derogatory things across the floor, and some of them acting as though they're in opposition where they rightly belong. But what I can tell you is that the PPP doesn't want to debate anything. Even matters that they are given time to debate, they come and they waste that opportunity fully with all sorts of foolishness. I remember in last February, for example, when the ministers got up to make their presentations for the budget, we had Charles Ramsden. I heard him shouting when Mr. Ramjatan was making the presentation. He was shouting in the background. Yet Mr. Ramsden stood up and spoke on everything but his ministry. When the speaker told him his time was up and he needed a 5-minute extension, it was quite an embarrassment, because then he had to say, oh, well, I'm going to go outside and speak to the reporters and tell them what is in the budget for the ministry. That is a mockery that the PPP has brought the National Assembly to, that level of insult, and it's very derogatory. We need to rise above that. We need to raise the bar. I know that the debates, we have persons coming forward from the opposition side of the House, and they have been extremely well prepped for these debates and so forth. And the PPP basically just go there for abuse out and a shout down, because they believe that they don't owe the Guyanese people the courtesy of putting forward anything substantial to them. And that's how they operate.
Again, that is part of the challenge that we have in building a very, very robust democracy. I want to turn our attention to questions, and questions are put to various ministers on various issues that are current. It sometimes happens that a constituent reaches out to you on a particular issue or issues, wanting them to be ventilated, and a question is sent to the National Assembly, or it could be just something that is happening currently, and a member of the National Assembly, an opposition member, brings a question to a sitting minister. Since March to now, a whole host of questions, scores, if not hundreds of questions, have been put to ministers. And as you know, I think up until last Thursday's sitting, it was 98 days, more than 3 months, since the National Assembly would have met. Mind you, the administration, the regime, has said that it wants to have a robust legislative agenda well, after being absent for 90 plus days, we don't see that happening. One of the questions, or a set of the questions that were asked since March that remains unanswered, pertains to local government. It pertains to the local government elections and commission. And I'll just read a few of them for you to get your impression. Some of them might have been overtaken by time because these questions have been lying on the speaker's desk or whose ever desk for so long. One of the questions says, can the Honorable Minister say what awareness program will the ministry be engaged in as it relates to educating our nation on local government elections? The second question reads, can the Honorable Minister say when will local government election commission be fully constituted and functioning? And what interventions will he be making concerning the current secretary of the commission, directing and instructing local authorities in the absence of the commission? That is a question overtaken by time. The third question that was asked says, can the Honorable Minister say what are the salaries and other benefits of members of the local government commission, including the secretary of the commission? And can the Honorable Minister say which month is the government anticipating the holding of local government elections? MP Finance.
These questions, what's very important is it's just like what I said before. The PPP believe that they don't owe the Guyanese people the courtesy, and this is not about the government and the opposition. And persons need not mistake it to mean such. Every time the government, the installed government, every single time they deny these information from being put forward, they're denying the Guyanese people. This is not denying the opposition information. This is denying the country information. And because this is how dictatorships function, they believe that they don't owe anyone any explanation to what is being done. And when you were speaking of questions just now, especially on local government, Sheriff, we all know Guyanese all know that the PPP could not be bothered about anything concerning local government. That is not something that they align themselves with. They do not see any purpose in local governance and local democracy altogether. That's why they kept away from that for all their time in office, basically. But when you were speaking of questions, Justin, one of the things that I remembered about last Thursday is the fact that the MP Figueroa, he was very, very robust, and he asked some very, very direct questions to Charles Ramson, to which Charles Ramson had no answer. He stood up and tried to give some petty insults and had absolutely no answer to what Mr. Figueroa was asking him. One of the things Figueroa was asking him is the fact that he is saying that he'd get $10 million for this, $10 million for this ground, every ground gets $10 million. And the question was asked of him, what mechanism did you use to determine what amount of money was going to be given to which ground? Because this is not his personal money. He's operating as though he's putting his hands in his pocket, or he's spending from his bank account. Oh, we're just going to give $10 million here and there. And then he stood up and he spoke about equity and equality. And I found that hilarious, because how could you even give a response by mentioning equity and equality? It's like you don't know the meaning of those words altogether. But again, this is the type of representation that the PPP gave to the Guyanese people when they step into the National Assembly, because they believe they should not be subjected to any bit of scrutiny. They believe that no one should ask them what they're doing and how it is being done. Now, and we will see that in its most blatant form come Monday, when we will be debating the motion that Gail Teixeira put to the Parliament to remove the chairman of the PAC. And I'm speaking on that motion. But I'm not even going to say what some of my points are going to be shared. I'll just leave that for Monday, because that motion is a political matter, and I will be treating it as a political matter. There is no merit to the motion whatsoever. There's no reason given.
Ill-conceived.
I will not be treating it as anything else but a political matter. And sometimes I believe that that's how you have to treat the PPP. You just don't go and try to make sense out of nothing. And I'm not about to pretend that there is some bit of logic to that motion. I will speak to the motion as what it is. It is nonsense. It is a malicious motion. It is a motion that heads us in the pathway of dictatorship. And that is exactly how I will be speaking on that motion. But I said all of that because I want to bring the point out to the public that the PPP is not concerned about scrutiny. They're not concerned about giving explanations as to what they're doing. They care not to give a reason to the Guyanese people as to how they are spending your taxpayers' dollars, not their own money. They don't care to tell you how they're spending your money. And once the people of Guyana understands this fact, I think we're going to be moving in a better direction at a faster pace, because it would be more haste to get them out of government and back into the opposition benches where they so rightly belong.
Even on that note, again, I want to link the motion that was brought by MP Ganesh Mahi Paul to deal with flooding, the national flooding situation, and to ask what is the government doing, and to propose short-term and long-term measures. That motion was deemed as not urgent, and yet, as MP Judice Finance said, would have submitted 2 financial papers in the last sitting on Thursday, and coming on Monday for a supplementary budget of over $10 billion. That seems urgent, but yet the discussion of the flooding situation, and perhaps even how we arrived at this $10+ billion in relief aid, goes unanswered, because again, the speaker said that that motion was not urgent.
When it comes to the money, Sherrod, I keep referring back to the Public Accounts Committee, because that's where we're supposed to be scrutinizing the government spending, and that's where we see the PPP put in all their efforts. They don't care how it is looked at by the international community. What they want to do is put all their efforts to make sure they stifle that committee, because the fact is that the PPP have 5 members on that committee, whilst the opposition have 4. So yes, we have the chairmanship of the committee, and these things are things persons need to know. Yes, we have the chairmanship of the committee. However, the PPP have 5 members, whilst we have 4, including the chairman. So what they basically do, again, is to abuse their privileged majority at the level of that committee to try to strong arm everything and act in a dictatorial manner, as they will be doing again on Monday. We cannot continue dealing with the PPP, I believe, the way in which they've been dealt with. They don't understand any bit of structured arguments that we have so far been trying to give to them. I think the PPP understands a different type of language, and unless we start to speak to them in the language that they understand, then we're going to be repeating the same things over and over. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and I think that that opinion is shared by so many other Guyanese. The PPP does not understand logics. They do not understand that, and we need not try to carry logic to them. We need to speak to them in the language that they understand. I can say it like that. You're muted.
Apologies there. MP Finance, I want to thank you for being part of the program this afternoon. On Monday, as MP Finance said, we're going to be talking about that supplementary budget and also debating the motion for the removal of the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. And she did say that it is ill-conceived, it is vindictive, it is malicious. And we will see where that goes. I'm going to be speaking to that motion as well, and we're going to be talking with you during the course of the week on what happens in the sitting on Monday. The final words go to MP Finance.
Well, Sharda, I commend, from what I can say is that I commend this program, the WIP. I think it's absolutely necessary, in addition to the work that you do throughout the week, for us to also have a program that deals specifically with the parliamentary matters, and to have the various MPs and the shadow ministers come forward and speak specifically as to what is happening in Parliament. Because yes, we bring out so much of what the PP is doing around the country and so forth in your program that you have in the ring, but I commend the fact that you have done this program, the whip, that is going to be bringing out all the parliamentary matters that's most important for us to be dealing with at this time.
Thanks for those kind words. And folks, here is where we're going to adjourn our program for this week. We'll see you on next week, Saturday. If we don't come to you before that time, anything that is of an emergency nature, we're going to adjourn our program here next week. See you here, same time, same place. Thanks for joining us, folks. Thank you for joining us.